Welcome back, everyone. If you remember previously in the last video that we left off on, I asked you guys to take a quiz and I put the link below the video. For those of you who took the quiz, I just want to briefly go over it. For those of you who haven't, I can just preface what the quiz will be like should you decide to take it later. So basically, it gave you a number of questions. In this question, it briefly went over what the attachment styles were and how they were formed. Obviously, like I had previously spoke on, John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth were the primary factors. Then you have the other categories here. So they were split up. You have category A, B, and C. Well, category A was to represent the anxious attachment style. Category B was to represent the secure attachment style. And category C was to represent the avoidant attachment style. And I don't know if there's anything else. Yes, the two attachment dimensions. Yep. So the two attachment dimensions, if you guys look on your paper, it's like I wouldn't say a Venn diagram, but it's cross-sectional. On one quadrant there's secure, one quadrant there's anxious, one is avoidant and one is anxious avoidant. I don't know if you guys can see that. So basically it just goes over those determining factors in the things that are key in understanding yourself. And I took one of these quizzes a long time ago, about 4 years ago for myself. At the time, I was going through a lot, went through some family deaths, family losses. Wasn't in a good place, really physically, spiritually. Just wasn't in a good place. Dating and such. But during that time, I developed, and even in childhood, what I realized is I read this book that I had been codependent upon a lot of partners. And so I myself was anxious attachment for the majority of my life. And I'm going to give you guys a book to read. It's called Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. Melody Beattie is spelled B-E-A-T-T-I-E. I believe she's a psychologist, and she did 2 other books on codependency. But codependency isn't just on relationships, it's on vices. You'll find a lot in Alcoholics Anonymous and things like that. But yeah, I would definitely recommend reading that book if you ever feel like you are that anxious attachment, or even if not, maybe you have a loved one that you care about and you just want to learn more about their particular situation, why they crave what they crave, and the things that we can do to rewire our brain to not do that. But I just wanted to hash that out real quick because I'm taking this quiz now, and the majority of my numbers were in the secure, and so that is that's a big motivator for me. I've worked many years on improving myself and trying to be the best version of myself because, as we're about to discuss here in a second, I did not have secure parenting growing up. Let's just say that from one side of the family, and that does affect us later on until we read a book or we become self-aware, and that's what I've done over the years. And I also wanted to briefly glance over what I had discussed in the last video in regards to secure attachment. So I wanted to clarify an error that I had made when I was giving you the statistics. I believe it was the 70, 20, and 10 of attachment styles. That is actually outdated, so I wanted to give you the most extensive one that is known to date. So the book Attached is another book that I highly recommend to you guys. I actually haven't read it myself. But it's specifically on how we grow attachment styles that we went over, how it affects us in our adult relationships, and I believe it's also how we can pass it on to our kids if we don't deal with it, if we don't nip it in the bud. So it's better that we're dealing with it now than later because it can affect future generations, and we don't want to do that. So the results from this book, statistics that they did on attachment style, found that 56% of the test subjects were secure, 20% were anxious ambivalent, 23% were avoidant, and 3 to 5% were in what is considered to be the disorganized category. And I believe I spoke about this in the last video, but the disorganized category basically means that you can go back and forth between insecure attachment styles. So you may go really far to the anxious, where you start clinging to somebody, but when they start giving you that love that you need, well, then you become avoidant. And there is that as well. Like I said, it's incredibly rare, but it is 3 to 5% of the population, according to this case study that was conducted on the test subjects. So I wanted to bring back to that point. The majority of the people that have a secure attachment style grew up with a positive upbringing, and their parents met the criteria of an excellent parent, excellent parenting. Now, as a child, these children felt understood, seen, and heard at all times. They had consistent interaction. That can be physical interactions, emotional interactions. Physical is big when a child is young, and this is proven through Maslow, I believe, did it, on how we cling to things that cause us comfort as well. Maslow created the hierarchy of needs in a human. So not only that, but the parents were affectionate and there for them. So at all times they felt seen, understood, and heard. There was never a doubt in the kid's mind growing up that his parent wouldn't be there for him, and his parent always showed up when his or her parent showed up whenever they needed them. And I don't want you guys to fret about this, because I'm here to help you understand and address these issues that you may or may not have ever noticed. Because through this awareness, you will make the changes for yourself as you see fit. Maybe you will decide to just close this video out and continue trudging on with the same issues. It doesn't really affect me with what choice you make, as long as you know that you made it independently and that you feel comfortable with that decision. So let's break it down. I have a number of characteristics that I'm going to go over, and we're just going to hammer them out, and I'm going to explain them the best that I possibly can. These are the characteristics, according to our dear friends at the Attachment Project. There are 10 critical components that an adult in the attachment style will have. Number 1 is they are able to regulate their emotions and feelings in a relationship. This means that I don't get all Humpty Dumpty about things not going my way. I'm not screaming, I'm not panicking, I'm not yelling. I'm very calm, I'm assertive, and I realize that emotions are like the tides in the ocean. They always change. Number 2 is that they have strong goal-oriented behavior on their own. So they're self-motivated. Now, one of the things that I see in particular of my generation, one of the top issues by far, is that men do not want to work. A lot of men that I know do not want to work. They're not self-motivated, they're not driven, they're not focused. They don't have a mission, they don't have a purpose. But they will play video games all day. They will try to master the entire levels of an entire video game, or they'll watch porn all day long, which we all know is incredibly productive. And so, on the flip side, you have women that are self-conscious, and they receive that validation through the social media that is put out. Because every like in social media is a validating factor. It's already been proven that dopamine hits like a trigger in our brain when we get that like. Oh, another source of validation. And I know men do this too, but I know in women in particular, it's much stronger. And so the issue with that is it only patches up the issue on hand. It doesn't deal with the root issue, which is vulnerability, self-worth, never feeling like you're good enough. Those are all things that stem from us needing validation, and that's what the anxious attachment generally seeks. Number 3 is that you are great at bonding, opening up to, and trusting others. This can be through conversation. This can be through physical interactions. Emotionally opening up to someone, saying, I can trust you with this information, that you aren't going to do anything with it that is going to harm me. I have the ability to trust. I'm not distrusting. Number 4 is that we follow our destiny and have a clear mission for our life. The secure attachment style is focus driven. It's like a railroad on the tracks, and it's just chugging all the way along, like a freight train. It just keeps on going. There is no stopping. We know what we want, and we get after it. We're motivated. We're driven. We don't sit here with our hands in our pockets and we don't do that. We're productive. Number 5 is that we can communicate our needs effectively. And the biggest thing that I learned in past relationships, even relationships with family, is communication is everything. If you do not have communication as a block in your relationship will be very short term. And I've seen it happen too many times. Specifically, men shut down when a woman wants more from them, and it can go vice versa. When a man is dealing with some issues at work and he tries to vent to his girlfriend or wife and she's not in a good mood and she's not wanting to hear it, she'll shut down too. That's just a standard example, but it's a really good example on how you need to learn to communicate. You are an adult now, you need to learn to communicate with others. I don't care. Once you hit the age of 18, it doesn't matter at all. You are responsible for communicating with others. You would communicate with your boss. You would communicate with your family members. So God forbid, if you were to communicate with your significant other or relationship partner, that should never be a problem. Number 6 is that you feel like you have an impact on the world around you. And I know a lot of us don't understand the capacity of what we do. We don't understand how many people we help. I deal with that at times, and I put this video out to educate you guys because I've learned a lot, and I want to share what I've learned, and I'm continuing to learn, and I'm continuing to grow, and until the day I die, I will continue to educate myself further and further on teaching and instruction and learning to sit under people that are much wiser than I am to get those gold mines, to pick them out. Because it is so key and vital to the rest of your life that you hold on to those gems that you get here and here, whether it's a stranger down at the cafe, whether it's a teacher at your university or college. It doesn't matter. You should always listen to what somebody has to say and then weigh the options. But you have a bigger impact on the world around you because everything you see in front of you is visual, right? I only see what I can see right now. I see a door in front of me. But I don't see down the road what that door could be. I might not even be in the same building in years. Maybe this building becomes a grocery store for holistic eating. I don't know. But it isn't about the things that we can see. Part of having faith is believing in the unseen as if things are already there. And it does talk about that in the scripture. Number 7 is that you feel comfortable being around somebody and being with them and bonding with them. Again, the bonding is crucial to a relationship as well. If your love language is not physical touch, you don't have to be throwing yourselves on somebody, but if somebody's love language is physical touch, your significant other, well, you should try to be receptive to that. So like mine is acts of service. If you do like a little thing for me, it goes a long way. Like that means everything to me in my heart. You literally took the time that you had out of your own day to help me with something. Like that ministers to my heart. And so we all have these different things that we feel comfortable bonding with one another. But again, there's communication lack. And I want to go into love languages later on down the road, but that's just something I'm bringing up now to preface you guys beforehand. Number 8 is that they actively seek emotional support from their partner and they give emotional support. What do I consider to be emotional support? I think, especially with men, one of the biggest things that I have learned is that men grow through criticism. I know that sounds harsh, but as men, we usually can take it. Now, women, on the other hand, they grow through praise. They want to feel appreciated. They want to feel loved. They want to feel understood. They want to feel heard. So, if your man's having a hard day at work, just encourage him. If he just got home and he's in a bad mood, just encourage him. Say like, I know how hard you work for us. I know you've done all this. I know you were working these strenuous hours. I'm just glad you're home now. You know, that's what men need to hear. Whereas a lot of the times, women for emotional support just need you to lend an ear as a man. This goes back to the very first video I put up with masculine and feminine energy. A woman just wants to be heard. She does not want you to add your input in unless she asks for it. Number 9 is that you're comfortable being alone and you use that time to explore. So you're self-independent and maybe you like to hike or you like to visit a favorite band of yours, concert, whether it's in town, it could be in a different state, traveling by yourself, doing things with yourself. Doing something for you and no one else. That's basically the essence of self-love. You care about yourself enough to spend time with yourself and you do the things that make you happy. Number 10 is that you have the capacity to reflect consistently on how you're doing in relationships. Now, I've talked to many men privately on the importance of checking in with their girlfriend or wife and how communication comes across in certain instances. So when a man reflects, or a woman, but for this particular situation we'll use a man, you need to remember that she needs to not only be heard, but that you actively took the time to pay attention to what she was saying, and that she feels appreciated and understood by you when it is all said and done. And this isn't a one-way street. Both partners should be actively doing this with each other. This helps with communication. But with that, I'm going to end with you guys. I hope those were some gold nuggets for you. And next week, we'll be inquiring into the anxious attachment style. As always, hit the bell button if you want to turn your notifications on. And click subscribe. I will be releasing more content next week. And I will see you guys there. Stay frosty.